So this is probably one of the most common questions I get from people, and it's Chandler versus Gilbert. Which one is better? I've lived in both. Neither are perfect, I will say that. And currently I do live in Gilbert. And there are certain reasons why I currently live in Gilbert, and please stick around to the end of the video because I'll get into that a little bit more. But let's first break down the differences between the two cities, particularly when we're talking about like location, crime, things to do, restaurants, home prices. Before I start jumping in and talking about location, one thing to remember for both of these cities is they are both quite large. Both of them have a population of over 250,000 people. And I do notice a lot of people that are relocating here from other areas are kind of surprised how big both of these cities are. So last weekend, I actually had a client from out of town come home shopping, and we started in the very north part of Gilbert, went to the second house that was 25 minutes away. When we got there, she was like, wait, is this still Gilbert? It was just on the opposite sides. So for the sake of learning and understanding both of these cities a little bit better, we're gonna break it into North Chandler, South Chandler, and then North Gilbert, South Gilbert, really using Highway 202 as that main divider. And I would say this applies a little bit more to Chandler than Gilbert, but the north side of Chandler has such a different flavor and such a different feel than the south part. So let's talk about location first, and we're gonna focus on Chandler. So if you want to be close to the airport or Central Phoenix, Scottsdale, that north part of Chandler is definitely the most ideal. And that's because it's really close to two major highways. You have the 101 and then the 202. Now, if you watch my videos, you know I often use Sky Harbor Airport as a measuring stick on really how far certain parts in the East Valley are from the center of town. And if you're on that north part of Chandler, you're gonna be anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes from the airport. But if you're on that south part of Chandler, if you're still close to the highway, it is only about 20, 25 minutes away. But if you go deep into Chandler, far away from the highway, as far southeast as you can go, I mean, it can take about 35 minutes, and that's without traffic. And that's mainly because you're on these surface streets for quite some time. You're further away from a major highway. Very similar thing with Gilbert. If you're on the very north part of Gilbert, you have highway access to the 60. But if you're really far south, you're gonna, again, be far away from a major highway, and it's just gonna take you more time. So if you wanna be in the most central location, I would definitely recommend being in Chandler, particularly that north part of Chandler along the 101, or staying closer to the 60 in Gilbert. But to be honest, the biggest key thing, if you really wanna be central or you have to commute or drive around town quite a bit, having close access to highway is a game changer. The second thing I want to review when comparing these two cities is crime rate. So I'm actually going to show you this crime map. I'll put the link in the description too, so you can do a little bit more research on your own. But basically what this website does is it color codes different parts of the city, and this is based on crime per capita or emergency calls. So green means the lowest crime rate per capita, and then eventually goes up to yellow, and then red indicating a higher crime rate. When we look at Phoenix Metro as a whole, and then kind of focus in on Chandler and Gilbert, we can see that the crime rate in these areas is actually lower than a lot of other parts of the Phoenix metro area. You know, the one exception would be that north part of Chandler. It does have a slightly higher crime rate per capita. And if you see these random red blocked areas, that's usually because it's either a non-developed space, commercial space, or even like a 55+ community where they may have slightly higher rate of emergency calls. Keep in mind, one thing this website fails to show is whether, okay, are these crimes, are they like shoplifting, or is it homicide? How serious is it? And that's where I'm actually gonna introduce another website. It's called Community Crime Map. I'll put the link in below. But this actually allows you to go into like a specific neighborhood and see what the emergency call was or what the crime reported was. The third thing I wanna compare is our downtown areas. Now, I will say Chandler and Gilbert, we do have some of the best downtowns, and you know, it's what draws a lot of people to the East Valley. The Gilbert downtown area, I would say, feels a little bit smaller and more of a community vibe to it. There's a fantastic farmers market every Saturday that hosts a lot of small local vendors. My one critique of downtown Gilbert is it's a lot of chain restaurants, and even though a lot of these chains are local Arizona chains, it still doesn't have a lot of like true local spots. Chandler downtown is a little bit larger, there's more options, and although they have a handful of these like Arizona chain restaurants in places, they also do have a handful more of locally owned spots. Chandler also has a little more space, so they tend to host these events throughout the year a little bit more often. If you want more of a steak dinner or fine dining experience, definitely go to Chandler. Chandler's gonna have more options, but I would say Gilbert has more of that like small town feel. This might just be my personal opinion, so I'm curious what other people think. Go ahead and put it in the comments. I would say though, putting aside the downtown areas, Gilbert does have more options for other like downtown feel areas. We have Agritopia, which is a mixed use area. There's also Verde at Cooley Station. These are both areas that have a lot of different events and restaurants and some shopping. Where Chandler, you kind of just have that downtown area, so not quite as many options. The fourth thing I want to bring up when comparing the cities is shopping options. And honestly, I would say they both do pretty well. They just have slightly different options. In Chandler, you have the Chandler Fashion Center, which is like your true traditional mall, and they have everything in there that you can think of, including Scheels. That was a grand opening about a little over a year ago. And then Gilbert has Santan Village, which is an outdoor shopping mall. And each city also has plenty of options like Costco, Trader Joe's, Target, all of that. So really, either place that you live, you're gonna have a ton of conveniences at your doorstep, and you're most likely gonna have a huge shopping center within 10 to 15 minutes of your home. The fifth thing I wanna bring up are parks and outdoor spaces. And I would say that Gilbert probably does a little bit better in this. So in Gilbert on the north side, you have Freestone Park, which is, I mean, there's everything there. You have skate parks, playgrounds, sports fields, all of it. They even have like this mini amusement park in there. And then you also have Riparian Preserve, which is more of a nature center, great place to walk around. And then on the south side, there's Gilbert Regional Park, which is an incredible park. If you're into like pickleball or any sports, they have a huge amphitheater there. I actually have a full video talking about different parks in Gilbert, but definitely a gem of a park. Now, Chandler does have some good park options. You have Breeze Park, which is on the northwest side of Chandler. And then on the south side, you have Tumbleweed, which is kind of similar to Gilbert Regional Park in some ways. There's a rec center. There is, huge lawn area, great park for sure. I would say the one area that's kind of doesn't have a lot of park options is the north part of Chandler. There's a lot of small community parks, but you don't have quite as much or as many options as Gilbert. But as a side note, I will say these two cities do way better than most of Phoenix Metro. Now, the next thing I'm gonna talk about when comparing the cities are, cost of living, or more specifically, home prices. This is something that's talked about a lot. And, which place is more affordable or more expensive? And it really just depends. Technically, when we look at the median sales price between two cities, the median sales price is a little bit higher in Gilbert, but you also have to keep in mind, Gilbert has a lot more just single family residences, and Chandler is gonna have more options for like townhomes and condos. So when you look at price per square foot, comparing that between each city, it's actually exactly the same. Now, remember in the beginning of the video when I was talking about that difference between North and South Chandler? Well, this definitely applies to home prices as well. The north part of Chandler is gonna have a lot of older homes, more like starter type homes, where if you go below the 202, you're gonna see, for the most part, a lot newer construction, bigger lots, bigger homes, and overall more expensive homes. This isn't a hard, fast rule. I mean, you can see a mix of different types of homes, both in the north and south, but generally that's what you're gonna see. You will see some differences between the north and the south part of Gilbert. I would say we have more starter homes or less expensive homes in the north part of Gilbert, but you also see these like beautiful neighborhoods, a lot of luxury listings in that north part as well. So not quite as much of a stark difference as Chandler, but you will see a lot of variety. Overall though, if you're looking for a starter home that's a single family home, you're probably gonna have more options in Gilbert. But if you're looking for more of a condo or a townhome as a starter home, probably more options in North Chandler, but ultimately it just comes down to what specific area of the city that you're looking at. Now, the next topic I'm going to talk about are schools. This is one of the most commonly asked questions between each city. And something to keep in mind, again, is both of these cities are quite large. So there's a few school districts between each city. But the thing to remember is we do have open enrollment. So you do, if you apply ahead of time, you do have an option to send your child to, any school. And then we also do have a lot of charter schools. Now, I've talked to a lot of people from the East Coast, and when they hear charter school, they're like, oh no. Okay, our concept of charter schools is much different. They're publicly funded schools, but a lot of people do choose to send their kids here instead of public schools as an alternative. So if you want more resources for school rankings below, I'll put some links in the description. So in the beginning of the video, I did say that I would share why I live in Gilbert, and it really comes down to this. My husband and I, we live in homes and we fix it up why we live in the home, and we found the best deal at the time. It was in Gilbert. We are planning on moving in the next handful of months, but we're actually keeping our eyes focused in North Chandler area. And the reason for this is I drive a lot for work. I'm all over the valley, even beyond the East Valley. So having that close highway access to the 101, the 60, and the 202 is really important to us. So that is the main reason we are looking to move out that direction. But I would say our quality of life has been pretty similar in both of these cities. So it's just really personal preference. Now, if you want to learn more about either of these cities, I do have playlists highlighting different neighborhoods, different things to consider living there. So thank you so much for your time and have a fantastic day.